What is happening? And welcome to my first ever podcast. I don't like. I'll go into a bit about myself first, but then I'm just going to go into what the podcast is about, which it's based on fat loss, and it's not really. It's not just a podcast for listening to. It's actually a bit of a step by step process on how you could genuinely lose a lot of fat and get your desired physique in the next 6 to 12 months, depending on how serious and how strict you are about this. Um, if you see me sort of looking at the screen a couple of times, it's just because I made some notes on this. Because I actually want it to be useful and I want you to be able to apply it to your life starting from right now as you're listening to the podcast. So, if you're genuine and you want to actually lose a lot of fat, then if I was you, I would get a piece of paper and go along and go through this sort of 20 to 30-minute journey of actually figuring out why it is you want to lose fat and how you're going to do that and the things that you can use and the tools you can use to actually do that. But a bit about myself, basically, first, since it is my first podcast, is my name is Jake Kavanagh. Basically, if you didn't know that already, I don't know how many people are going to watch this or listen to it. Um, but for the one or two that do, shout out. Um, but look, basically, I used to be 104 kilograms, and for a 5'10" to 5'11" person, that is not really ideal. I was in a very bad shape. I played a lot of sport, and I played sport on a regular basis, but I just had really unhealthy eating habits. I had a bad relationship with food, and I would use food as a comfort when I felt shit. So it just, there was a lot of things in terms of nutrition that kept me overweight and ultimately underperforming in not only physical realm and in the sports world, but also in life. Like just going around, and it's, if you have never been in shape, it's hard for you to sort of understand what it's like. But I had been in shape and got out of shape, and and now that I'm back in good shape, I can tell you that just the way that you feel and the way that you approach the day is so different compared to you're over, like it's just, it's life changing. Like it's, I genuinely believe, and it's not like a thing. I genuinely believe basically that you just shouldn't be overweight or fat or unathletic. Now I understand that it's not like the end of the world and some people are okay with that, and that's fine. Like that's their view. I have nothing against someone who wants to, like, who isn't fussed on being in shape. I just think they would be a better version of themselves if they were in good shape. Like, so I understand that's a bit of a hot topic and some people may not agree with that, but I will stick by that. That if you were in a better shape, you would be better overall in life. Like, I just don't think you can argue with that. But if you have, feel free to comment, or I don't know if you can comment on podcasts or not. But anyway, even just a bit of example, like, so I went on a hike yesterday just by chance. I was hiking, and I done that same hike like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and the difference in me just being able to like climb and walk up the mountain was drastic. So it's like even that, like, and both times I really enjoyed it, but it was like there was no need for it to be so difficult the first time. And not only did I was it difficult, I also felt self-conscious about people thinking that I made it look difficult. So then it plays into your whole mental health and everything like that. um but yeah, so I just, for me personally, I lost 20 kilograms. I'm now, so I was at 104, I'm now at 84. um but I was down at 82, and then I just took a break from, basically I've been trying to put on a bit of muscle mass and stuff. But yeah, I'm currently sitting at 84, so technically still lost 20 kilograms of body weight, which was predominantly fat as I'm quite lean now. But I want to basically go through like sort of like sort of, it's sort of a steps slash rules that will help you with fat loss and some things you can stick by. Um, but it's basically, the process is, right. Number one, it's understanding your why that you actually want to lose fat. Like we all obviously, if you want to lose fat, you obviously want to lose fat because you want to look good and whatnot. But understanding your why to its fullest is going to help you when things get tough and you're just not really feeling the sort of quote unquote motivation that you would usually have on a daily basis, or when you're um, making good progress. Because it's the days that you're not motivated, they are the ones that are going to make the big difference for you actually succeeding on your journey. Um, but then second is understanding where you're starting from, so like your current physique, and then where you want to go to. The third is acknowledging what made you like unfit, fat, or out of shape in the first place. And and by the way, I just want to say here from the start, like I feel like the word fat has become so you can't say it or it's offensive. But I'm just saying it what it is. I'm not saying it to be offensive. I'm saying it to try to help and give a better understanding. So if anything comes across offensive, that's not the intention. But anyway, so number three is acknowledgement of what made you fat. Number four is labeling the barriers to keeping you fat and why you aren't getting in shape in the past, why you haven't made any progress in the past 3 to 6 months. Number five is how to actually lose fat. Like how do you do it, and what makes someone fat and what makes someone lose fat. Number six is ways of making fat loss easier. And number seven is making fat loss enjoyable. Now, don't get me wrong, it's never going to be fully enjoyable when you're in a fat loss phase, but you can enjoy life, you can enjoy social events. It's just a bit harder. But what I'll go into at the end a bit, but anything worth achieving in life is going to be hard. And also, I want to like when you embark on a journey of achieving something of value, like getting like having abs is valuable. Like people don't understand, like being in good shape, like you yourself become more like it's desirable, it's valuable. So anything of that magnitude is going to have some difficulties to getting that and achieving it. But it just makes it all the worth more, or all the worthwhile. Sorry. But I'm going to jump into number one, which is a better understanding of why you want to lose fat. And this is like for you. If I was you right now, I would be taking a piece of paper and I'd be writing down the question deep down: why do I want to lose fat? And then sit and actually think about it. Why do you want to lose fat? Like for me at the start, obviously I when I was out of shape, like I was out of shape for multiple years, so I always knew I was out of shape. But what made me like sort of be like, right, fuck this, I'm not staying out of shape. I need to get in good shape. Was for me personally, I went through a breakup, and in that breakup, I was just like, yeah, I just need to fucking better myself because I'm not that I was treated badly or anything. Like it was a good relationship, but I was just like, I'm not accepting another relationship like that where I constantly didn't feel like I was my best self in the relationship. So for me, a big motivation for getting in shape was uh going through the breakup and then wanting to, potentially get with more, like not get with more people, but just like basically not be worried about not finding a partner because I was out of shape, which unfortunately, like I don't care if it hurts anyone's feelings. Like if you're out of shape, you're automatically found less attractive by more people. Not saying you're unattractive, but on in general, you are less attractive. I don't. If you disagree, that's fine. But I just, I mean, come on. Anyway, um, so deep down, what is it for you? Like, figure that out. Some people's it might be they've recently had a heart attack or a health scare, and it's like now it's like I need to do this, or I'm potentially looking at life or death, which is a lot more drastic than a heartbreak. So if that is the case, like fucking get it done. Sorry for clapping there. I don't know if that's bad on the audio. Um, but yeah, so figure out what it is and really deep dive into it because that is what's going to motivate you on the days that you feel shit. Um, and then second is understanding where you're starting from and where you want to go. So for me, I weighed myself. Don't get upset when you weigh yourself. Understand that it is just a unit of measurement and it's a way for you to like measure your progress throughout your journey. So I weighed myself the first in January. I think it was January like 14th. I think it was 14th of January in 2022, and I was 104 kilograms. That was the heaviest I'd ever been, and for a while before that, I thought I was in the 98 range of like 98 kilograms because that was the last thing I measured. And then I jumped on the scales and I was like, holy fuck, I'm 104. Things need to change here. And yeah, so I then I understood I was 104 kilograms. I took progress photos. I took photos at the start. I was looking at myself and I was like, damn, I have my belly is too big. I'm starting to develop, like, not even develop. I had man boobs. Just, I wasn't in good shape. And it was like that. I understood where I was. And then I figured out where I wanted to go. I was lucky enough to have a bit of knowledge in sort of, and now I was lucky enough to have a bit of knowledge in the sort of fitness space and this sort of typical weight that you would want to be for certain heights. I was lucky because I actually had my qualification for personal training from like 3 years prior to that. I just never used it. But I did have the knowledge. The knowledge was never an issue for me. I knew how to do it, or well, I knew what to do. I just didn't really know how to go about it. But yeah, so I understood I wanted to get down to 88 kilograms. So I was at 104. I thought in my head, 88 kilograms, I'll be very happy with when I get there. And I was. When I got to 88 kilograms, I stayed at 88 kilograms for roughly like 4 months. I was like happy with where I was at. But then I got to that point, I got or I got, I then realigned my goals, set new goals, and then that's when I started dropping to 84, 80, and the 82 mark. But understanding where you want to go is a big thing. So I would write down, um so obviously get your like scale weight, and I would weigh that every week, seven like every day of the week, and then take an average weight 7 days a week so you can track your progress on average throughout the week. I would take body measurements. Now it's personal what measurements you want to do. um Most guys want to do like the arms, the chest, the belly. Most girls will want to do the like sort of the abs, sort of belly, and typically the glutes and legs. Just depends on whatever your goal is. Um, and then write down where you want them to be in the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months. Now you might not have a good idea, but I would do a bit of research on what someone your weight, or sorry, what someone your height is typically weighed in at. It's different if you have like a high percentage of muscle mass, or not a percentage, but if you have a lot of muscle mass, then it might be slightly different, but it doesn't. It's usually around the same ballpark. Like BMI is not like the be all end all, but a BMI is a good sort of work around. Like it's a good goal weight to set just for the start. Um, but yeah, so write down your what you want to do in the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months. If you don't know, like if you don't have a different weight for all those, I would just pick one big one, such as like a 3 month, and just be like, right, that's all I'm focused on, where I want to be in 3 months, or pick like where's the next 6 months. I think the smaller like you do, the less sort of overwhelming the goal sounds. Because if you say 12 months and that's the only goal you have, 12 months seems fucking ages away, and you could be lazy with it. And then by the time it gets to the fucking 12-month mark, you're like, oh shit, I barely started. Where if you set 3 weeks, or sorry, 3 months, that's like you can break that down then into like 3 4 week periods. So it's like right in 4 weeks what I want to be, and then it's like you can set like little targets throughout the entire time period, just to give you something to aim for and keep you on track. Because the bigger the goal, the less sort of disciplined you'll be towards it, because there's less like day by day steps that you can take. Um, Next, number three is going to be acknowledging what actually made you fat. So for me, it was I never really lacked, or I for me personally, it was not really tracking nutrition and looking after my nutrition, but that was because growing up I played a lot of sports, but I grew up in a household where we didn't really have very good education on what was like what type of meals you should be eating in terms of good nutrition. It was just like takeaways and you know using a lot of oil, deep fried things like that. So the thing that kept me in shape was training a lot. But then I basically stopped training. Football team dismantled, and I just ended up putting on weight slowly and slowly and slowly over time. And then in COVID, I was drinking a lot, just sitting on PlayStation, fucking playing pro clubs with my mates, and I'd be sitting drinking like eight, 8 to 10 tins of cider, and over time that just built up and put the weight on. So it was a lack of training, and then after COVID, I was still training. I got back to training, but I the amount of training that I was doing, it was a good amount of training, but it was never going to outwork the bad nutrition that I had. So understand what made you fat. So was it growing up with uneducated parents? Did you get comfortable in a relationship? Do you have an eating disorder? Do you cope with anxiety? Or sorry, do you eat to cope with anxiety? Did you stop training like me? Different things. But yours will be individual. But write down, label, like put it down on a piece of paper. What made you fat? It could be a combination of all of those. So mine's was growing up with uneducated parents, not uneducated, that just sounds mean, uneducated in terms of nutrition and not knowing what they actually feed and understanding calories and the significance of them when it comes to fat loss. Um, then the next thing was, did you get comfortable in a relationship? I did. I got comfortable. I stopped sort of pushing myself. And then obviously did you stop training? For me, it was stopping training. But you could have an eating disorder, unhealthy relationship with food, and you could eat to cope with anxiety, which I know that's a big problem a lot of people face. And number four is labeling the barriers to keeping you fat. So what's keeping you fat now? For me, it was a still an unhealthy relationship with food, but I was no longer not training. So I had to write down that okay, well I'm training a lot, so that's something really good for losing fat. I was like, right, why am I not losing fat? Oh, okay, it's because my nutrition shit and I'm not tracking the amount of calories that I'm eating on a daily basis. And I'm also um I was sort of not surrounding myself with people that were making me fat, but I was with people that weren't sort of keeping me in check. So it was like let's say with the axe, it was like we'll go get a munch for watching a movie, and it's like realistically now they obviously didn't want to be mean, but realistically they should have just been like, you need to get in shape, like you're fucking obviously it's a very touchy subject around just people in general, so I can understand why that wouldn't have been the case. But I think actually being around people that will say like, "You fucking put down the packet of crisps, bro. Like you're eating way too much." Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so just having a good or understanding what's keeping you fat. Is it a lack of training? Is it the fact that you're not coping with your anxiety in other ways, such as journaling? Is it that you're around people that are encouraging you to eat bad and get takeaways? I'm not saying you have to cut people off or anything like that, but understanding what the problem is one of the biggest fucking things that you can use to achieve what you want to achieve. And and then next is how to actually lose fat. So fat fat loss is basically comes down to your body on a daily basis will use a certain amount of calories, and what a calorie is a calorie is just a unit of measurement of energy basically. And what fat is just stored energy that your body stores as fat, so that when you need more energy your body can then turn that into energy for you to use on a daily basis. So uh, the way that you lose fat is through a calorie deficit, the same way that you would gain fat is through a calorie surplus. Now, you obviously don't just gain and lose fat through deficits and calorie surplus, but that's the main sort of premise. So, if, for example, my daily energy expenditure, which is basically how many calories my body burns on a daily basis, if mine was 2000, if I was to eat less than 2000, then my body would use some of the stored fat to make up the extra calories that I didn't eat that day. So that means, but what I will point out is 1 pound of fat, so 1 pound of stored fat on your body is a total of 3,500 calories. So if you wanted to lose 1 pound of fat, you would have to, in some form of another, eat 3,500 calories less. Now, you can spread that out over a certain amount of days, a certain amount of weeks, and how you want to do that is entirely up to yourself. The way I typically did it was if I was on if my daily calorie expenditure was 2,000 a day, right? I would just eat 1,500 a day, and so over the course of the week, I'd each day I would have been in a deficit of 500 calories. So if you times that by seven, so 1 day a week, 500 times seven is 3,500, which would have been 1 pound of body fat. So that's why sometimes you'll notice that you might like drop, like sometimes if you weigh yourself you might actually like be down like 2 pounds, but it's most likely just a pound of body fat and a pound of water weight or some other form of, you didn't go to the toilet or the foods in your stomach, basically different ways. But yeah, so ideally you want to just go for like 1 pound or max like 1.5 to 2 pounds a week of body fat. I wouldn't recommend being in a really high deficit, just because it starts then killing into muscle gains and stuff like that. But I'll just keep it. Let's keep this podcast about fat loss. So get yourself in a calorie deficit and understand that 1 pound of fat is 3,500 calories. So for you to lose a pound a week, you'd have to be in a minus 500 every day. Or alternatively, you could do something like every other, or Monday to Friday you eat your 2,000 calories, and then on Saturday and Sunday you like eat less than 1,250 each. But I wouldn't recommend that. It just depends on how you want to go about it. I would just recommend dropping 500 calories per day. But if you want to use a term called calorie banking, which I'll go into in a bit, then go for it. But yeah, so let's move on to number six so that I can go into calorie banking basically. So ways to make fat loss easier, such as like tools that you can use. And when I say tools, I basically just mean like sort of routines and idea and like ways to combat the struggles of trying to lose fat, which is like typically hunger. Because typically what's going to make you not lose fat is you're going to get hungry, or you might be emotionally eating and stuff like that. But typically it's hunger or boredom, which leads to over consuming on calories. But let's talk about calorie banking, which is a term used for when you eat when you eat basically a lot less calories throughout the week, and then sort of on the weekend you might eat a higher calorie day. So let's use the 2,000 calories example a day. If I had to eat 2,000 calories a day, that's 14,000 a week. Um, but let's say instead of doing a minus 500 every day, I wanted to I'm pretty good on Monday to Friday. On Monday to Friday, I can get away with eating, let's say, 1,200 calories a day. Now, I wouldn't recommend this. I'm just saying. I'd say 1,200 calories a day. So that means I'm in a deficit of 800 per day. So that means I save up a little bit extra each day. So that would be five times an extra 300 per day, which is 1,500 calories spare. So that means on the days on Saturday and Sunday, I could actually eat 2,250 calories a day, um, because I banked way more during the week. Hopefully that made sense. But if not, I have videos on my Instagram about calorie banking, and I'm sure you can Google it as well. But look up calorie banking if that sounds good to you, where you have some days where you eat less calories, and then some days are more higher calorie intake days. But next sort of things I want to talk about is eating a eating a high protein diet. So protein is like the most filling nutrient that you basically have and that we eat, and it also helps with muscle building, which I would recommend on top of your fat loss journey. But yeah, so a high protein diet, it'll basically just make you feel more full and keep your body basically repairing itself throughout the sort of fat loss journey. Also, one thing to mention, which I don't want to give too much light onto because people take it the wrong way, but protein as the nutrient itself, your body actually burns more calories trying to digest that than what it would with fats and carbs. So your body actually does burn more calories when you eat more protein than if you were to eat more carbs. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want people to take that and fucking run with it and just only eat protein. I think you should eat a balanced diet full of carbs, proteins, and fats. But yeah, technically, your body actually burns more calories eating a lot of protein. Next is going to be drinking water. A lot of people think they're hungry and they're just dehydrated. So I'd recommend 3 to 4 liters of water a day. Studies suggest a minimum of 2 liters. But drinking water, it'll keep you feeling refreshed and it'll also keep you feeling full. And next is going to be utilize caffeine. Now, I'm not sitting here and saying go out and drink a fucking load of coffees or whatever. I would actually recommend a cutoff point so it doesn't affect your sleep. I tend to wake up around about 7 or 8 a.m. and then I try to stop drinking caffeine around 1 p.m. Anything after that, because caffeine has a half life of I believe it's 6 or 7 hours, and then it just means it'll affect your sleep and your recovery for the next day. So but the reason I'm saying utilize caffeine is because caffeine is actually a hunger suppressant. So it'll keep you when if you let's say you like wake up and you don't eat for the first 2 hours and you feel hungry. If you were then drink a coffee or like have a tin of Monster or some sort of energy drink, you'd be able to push your meal back even further. And the reason you'd want to do that maybe is because you would. It's sort of similar to like intermittent fasting, but it's basically just pushing back breakfast. You don't have to do it. You can push. You can just if you want to have a big breakfast in the daytime, whatever. But yeah, so using coffee or caffeine, sorry, specifically to combat hunger when you're in a fat loss phase. It just makes it a wee bit easier. Next is going to be having a mealtime schedule. By the way, all these things that I'm suggesting for making fat loss easier, you don't have to do all of them. You can just do some of them, pick the ones that work for you, and you'll be grand. You don't even have to use any of them if you find it easy to lose fat. But have a mealtime schedule. So I typically, when I'm doing a fat loss phase, I typically only eat at 12 between 12 to 2 p.m., and then I eat between like 7 till sort of 9 p.m., and then I might have like a snack like a protein bar or a protein milkshake or some sort of like veg or not vegetable, sorry, some sort of fruit, just basically like a snack in between. um for me, basically what it does, it'll regulate your hormones and you'll stop feeling, or your body will get used to eating at that time, so then it'll start producing the hunger hormones, which is like ghrelin, and you'll get hungry around the same time every day, and it'll just regulate everything and make it easier. Um, but yeah, so next is going to be uh, what do you call it? Having a sleep schedule. Again, regulates your hormones and ghrelin will start to be produced around the same time every day, and it'll just regulate everything and make it better. Next, I want to talk about is if you're one of your problems is you eat as a comfort food, or like you eat to cope with anxiety and stuff, then I would recommend other ways to cope with anxiety, which would be going to the gym, doing exercise, going for a run, going for a walk, meditating, reading, any like there's so many different ways to cope with anxiety. If you're not actually doing those and you're just using that as an excuse to overeat, then that is a problem in itself. Go start doing the other methods, the ones that are actually talked about and there's proof that they work. um and then that'll help you when it comes to eating to coping with anxiety, because journaling and things like that, they do work, so give them a go. There's loads of different ways like yoga, any sort of, you can Google different ways to cope with anxiety, but uh, start getting another sort of coping mechanism rather than eating, because that'll just keep you out of shape and fat basically. Um, and then lastly is actually going to be making fat loss enjoyable. So what the fuck's the point in like doing all this if you're just hating the whole process? So what I would actually like sort of this is more like a mindset point basically, and it's just practice gratitude, to be honest. Like be grateful for the fact that you can lose weight. Some people actually like some people are like bedridden and whatnot, and some people are like in a scenario where they can't really. It's not even worth their hassle to lose fat. So just be grateful the fact that you can, um, and be grateful the fact that you're able. Or sorry, I'm sort of tripping over my words here, but basically just practice gratitude and be humble. Like enjoy the journey and understand that like you're probably if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably living a pretty comfortable life. I, that sounds fucking you know that's assumptive of me, but there is literally people starving to death and people who can't even have access to clean water. If you're listening to this podcast, you're pretty privileged, to be honest. Like the fact that you have the things that you can to listen to this podcast shows that you're in a pretty good like way of life. So I would actually basically just say stop complaining so much. Like appreciate what you have, and just and then next would be like just enjoy the journey. Like I said at the start, it's difficult, but what you get out of it is worth it. So just enjoy the process and enjoy learning about food, enjoy learning about your body and how it reacts to certain foods. Like enjoy the process of understanding yourself better, basically, because like you are on a journey to better yourself, and that's one of the best journeys you can be on, regardless of who you are. Um, And then another ways of enjoying fat loss is sometimes it's okay to take time off a fat loss journey. And I wouldn't recommend it a lot, but sometimes things get in the way, and taking time away from fat loss is fine. I just hopefully you have instilled the daily habits along the journey that would um, allow you to take time off but not gain weight. So just because you're taking time off, you're not really regressing, you're not going backwards. Just means you're not really making the necessary like progress, quote unquote. But it will allow you to mentally reset, give your body time to adjust. Like when I lost 20 kilograms, I didn't just lose it week on week on week on week. I basically from January to March, I lost I think it was like 8 kilograms, and then from March till I think it was August, I lost 10 kilograms, and then from basically like uh no like early or mid October till like start of December, I lost the other 4 kilograms. So which got me down to 84. Um, but yeah, so like as you can see, like I took some breaks in between that. Uh, I broke it up a bit. I wasn't like constantly fucking just slaving away. So understand that it is a phase, and you're not supposed to be in a calorie deficit year round. Like that's not that's just not healthy. Like a calorie deficit is not actually a healthy thing to be in. It's just it'll get your body in a healthier place at the end of it. Um, but yeah, and then also sometimes you might have like a wedding or a family event or a christening or whatever it is, or a birthday. Just enjoy it. Like chill the fuck out. Like it's not the end of the world if you uh don't make a bit of progress one week. Um, understand that you're on a journey for the rest of your life, and it's not like getting in shape is not something you just do for like 3 months. It's like, no, I'm gonna stay and get in shape for the rest of my life. Like I will never be out of shape again. Like that's just me being honest, because I understand why I got in shape and why I'm in shape and the benefits of being in shape. So to me, it just seems ridiculous to get out of shape. Like I just and also I'm just in such a routine and a habit of doing healthy things that it just I just wouldn't get out of shape. Like I train on a regular basis. I understand why, or I understand what to eat and why I'm eating it. And like at the start of my fat loss journey, I didn't eat any vegetables, and now I eat loads of vegetables. And it's not like I used to think it was a taste bud things. it was more so I just didn't understand how to make vegetables taste nice and things like that. But yeah, also for fat loss, just one bonus tip to make it enjoyable. See when you're eating your meals, there is so many sauces that are low in calorie. Like you can smother half your meals in sauce and make it taste nice, and it'll still be low calorie. Just an idea. But hopefully that hopefully I think there was a dog barking in the background. Brother was fucking crying and everything, but hopefully it didn't take away from what the message that I was getting across today, and it actually you still enjoyed the podcast. What is happening, and well, and you're just using that as an excuse. Loads of different ways, like yoga, any sort of you can Google different ways. Point basically, and it's just start getting another sort of coping mechanism rather than eating, because that'll just keep you out of shape and fat basically. Um, and then lastly is actually going to be making fat loss enjoyable. So what the fuck's the point in like doing all this if you're just hating the whole process? So what I would actually like sort of this is more like a mindset point basically, and it's just I realized that that basically just cut off there. But yeah, this is basically like a mindset point, and it's just about practicing like gratitude and being like grateful for the process basically, because at the end of the day there is a lot of people that are in a very like situation that don't even get the luxury to listen to a podcast or like listen to or watch films and stuff. Like stop being so fucking hard on yourself because you're a bit overweight, um because people don't even have like water to drink basically, like or clean water to drink, sorry. But yeah, just practice gratitude on a daily basis. um at the end of the day, you're living a good life regardless if you think you're not. Like you're in a pretty comfortable situation. um and I'm not saying this because I'm like, sitting on my high horse here, like I'm in a good situation. Don't get me wrong, I have a lot of stress and a lot of struggles, but when you compare it to some other people, it's it's really not that big of a deal. But yeah, and then also like understand when you're embarking on this like fitness journey, uh, like anything worth having naturally is going to be difficult. Like if you want to get in shape, like it's going to be difficult, and understand that, and just like on the like power through and revert back to like your why. Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that is what's going to push you on the days that you don't. But in terms of making things like in terms of making it enjoyable, don't be afraid to take a week off or like a week or two off fat loss, or like being in a calorie deficit. Sorry, because at the end of the day, you're not supposed to be in a calorie deficit year round anyway. So taking a week off or a week or two off to reset is fine as long as you're not putting more weight on and sort of taking a step backwards. As long as you're like just staying at maintenance or whatever, you don't have to lose weight every week basically. Um, and then also if you have like social events or whatever, like don't get me wrong, like if it's like a fucking birthday party like every second week, like right, ways up, you can just not go, like I doubt you have that many friends or whatever that you're constantly needing to go to this stuff. But you can just like take a week off to go to like your fucking brother's wedding or a christening or your best friend's birthday party, whatever it is. Like you can take a bit of time off because there's nothing stopping you from just jumping back on. Like as long as you understand why you're doing it and you have a valid reason, it's okay. So hopefully that wraps it up. I'm gonna try and do more podcasts. I'm gonna try and aim for like one a week. just on different things. This week was on fat loss because I actually do think if someone listened to this, I genuinely think it'll give them a better understanding of themselves. This wasn't so much practical advice in terms of eat this, here's a meal plan, do this exercise. This was more like the mental sort of side of fat loss that I feel like a lot of people don't really talk about as much. So hopefully it's helped. Hopefully you actually took a piece of paper and you were writing down things. So number one was a better understanding of your why. So deep down, what is it? Number two was understand where you're starting from and where you want to go. So set yourself goals compared to where you are right now. Number three was literally write out what made you fat. Like, why did you get fat? Maybe you grew up fat, so that would be uneducated parents. Not really your fault, but it's not your fault that you're staying fat. Number four is labeling the barriers to keeping you fat. Number five was high calories or how to actually lose fat, so being in a calorie deficit. Number six was ways to make fat loss easier. So eating high protein diet, drink more water, utilize caffeine, have a meal time, have a sleep schedule. If you have anxiety and stuff like that, writing in a journal, going to therapy, going to the gym, exercising, going for walks. And then number five was just being grateful. Or sorry, number seven was making fat loss enjoyable. And just being grateful for the process and trying to enjoy it because at the end of the day, there's people in a far worse situation. I know your parents probably said that to you growing up, but it's fucking true. Like, it's not the end of the world if you have a bit of extra timber on you, basically. But I'm gonna wrap it up there. I'm looking forward to if anyone if anyone listened to this the whole way through, or if anyone found this useful, please tag me on social media. I would love to know that you watched it, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it. So tag me on social media, send me a DM on Instagram. What you found most, or what you found best about it, and what you can take away from it, or if you have any advice on how I could have made it better, or if you wanted to sort of um give a different side of some of the things that I said. I'd love to hear from you. So tag me on social media, share on your story if possible, and send me a DM what you thought about it. So, cheers, folks, and thank you for listening. Hopefully, this wasn't fucking shite. But anyway,